It didn't begin with an explosion. There was no fire lighting up the sky, no sirens cutting through the night, no desperate screams warning people to run. Instead, it arrived in the most silent way imaginable, and within a matter of minutes, entire villages were erased. Over 1,000 people died without understanding what was happening to them. Families collapsed where they stood, some found in their beds as if they had simply fallen asleep, others lying in the middle of dirt roads, frozen mid-step, as though time itself had stopped. There were no wounds, no signs of violence, no evidence of struggle, just bodies scattered across a quiet valley. Whatever had passed through that place did so without being seen, without being heard, and without giving anyone even a single second to react. On the night of August 21st, 1986, in a remote and mountainous region of northwest Cameroon, near a place that few people outside the area had ever heard of, something almost impossible unfolded. The place was called Lake Nyos, a deep crater lake surrounded by steep hills and thick vegetation. To anyone who looked at it, it appeared calm, even beautiful. The water was still, reflecting the sky above, and the surrounding land supported small villages where life followed a simple and predictable rhythm. People raised cattle, tended to their crops, and ended their days in quiet homes far away from the noise of cities or the dangers of industrial life. There was nothing about that lake that suggested danger, nothing that hinted at the presence of something capable of killing thousands in a single night. But beneath that calm surface, hidden far below where light could reach, something had been building for years. Deep underground, an active volcanic system slowly released carbon dioxide gas. This gas moved upward through cracks in the earth and eventually found its way into the lake. Under normal conditions, gases like this would slowly rise and escape into the atmosphere without causing harm. But this lake was different. Its water was layered in a way that trapped the gas at the bottom. The colder, denser water held the gas in place, while a layer of warmer water above acted like a seal, preventing it from escaping. Over time, more and more gas dissolved into the deep water, creating an enormous reservoir of pressure, like a bottle of soda that had been shaken over and over again without ever being opened. Years passed, and nothing seemed to change. The lake remained quiet. The villages continued their routines. Children played, families gathered, and nights passed in peaceful silence. But there had already been a warning, one that few people truly understood. In 1984, just 2 years before the disaster, a similar but smaller event occurred near another lake in the region. Dozens of people died suddenly, without explanation. The cause was unclear, and in an area with limited communication and little outside attention, the incident was never fully investigated in a way that reached the public. For those living near Lake Nyos, life went on. No one imagined that what had happened before could happen again, on a much larger and far more devastating scale. Then came that night, at around 9:30 p.m. Something disturbed the lake. No one knows exactly what it was. It could have been a landslide crashing into the water, or a subtle tremor deep beneath the ground. Whatever the trigger was, it disrupted the delicate balance that had been holding the lake stable for so long. And when that balance was broken, everything that had been building beneath the surface was released in an instant. The deep water surged upward violently, and with it came a massive amount of dissolved carbon dioxide gas. The lake erupted, not with flames or lava, but with force. A column of water and gas shot into the air, reaching incredible heights before collapsing back down. Waves spread across the surface, and in that moment, an invisible catastrophe began to unfold. The gas, heavier than air, did not rise and disperse. Instead, it sank back toward the ground, forming a dense, suffocating cloud. It began to flow over the edges of the crater and down into the valleys where the villages lay. It moved like a slow, unstoppable flood, silent and unseen, covering everything in its path. As the cloud advanced, it displaced the oxygen in the air. Breathing became impossible, but there was no immediate signal to warn people. No smell, no color, no sensation of burning or choking. People simply began to feel dizzy, confused, and weak. And then, without understanding why, they collapsed. There was no time to run, no time to call for help, no time to even realize that something was wrong. In homes across the valley, people fell where they stood. Some were found sitting, others lying down, as if sleep had taken them suddenly and permanently. In the fields, cattle dropped where they grazed, birds fell from the sky. Even insects were not spared. The cloud continued its silent movement, spreading across the land, reaching multiple villages and leaving nothing alive in its wake. When the gas finally began to dissipate, the damage had already been done. Over 1,700 people had lost their lives. Thousands of animals lay scattered across the landscape. Entire communities had been wiped out in a single night, without a single sound of warning. For those who survived, the experience was something beyond comprehension. One man later described waking up hours after losing consciousness, surrounded by complete silence. At first, he didn't understand what had happened. He tried to speak, but his voice felt weak, as though the air itself resisted him. He looked around and saw bodies everywhere. Friends, neighbors, family members, all lying still. He called out, but no one answered. He walked from house to house, hoping to find someone alive, but there was nothing, just silence. Imagine stepping outside your home and realizing that every person you have ever known is gone. No noise, no movement, no explanation, just the overwhelming realization that something invisible has taken everything from you. When rescue teams and outsiders eventually arrived, they were met with a scene unlike anything they had ever encountered. There were no signs of destruction, no fires, no structural damage. The villages stood exactly as they had before, but life had vanished. Bodies lay in positions that suggested no struggle, no attempt to escape. It was as if the entire area had been frozen in time. At first, there was confusion. Some believed it could have been a toxic substance. Others suspected a disease, but nothing seemed to fit. There were no burns, no lesions, no visible signs of poisoning. The mystery only deepened as investigators searched for answers. Eventually, scientists identified the cause. The lake had released a massive cloud of carbon dioxide in what is now known as a limnic eruption, a rare and poorly understood natural phenomenon. In this case, the concentration of gas was so high that it replaced the oxygen in the air, leading to rapid and silent suffocation. It was not a violent death, but it was an unavoidable one. There was nothing anyone could have done to escape it once the cloud reached them. In the years that followed, efforts were made to prevent such a disaster from happening again. Engineers developed systems to slowly release the gas trapped at the bottom of the lake, reducing the pressure and stabilizing the environment. Pipes were installed to allow the gas to escape gradually, ensuring that it would not build up to dangerous levels again. Today, the lake is closely monitored, and the immediate threat has been significantly reduced. But the story does not end there, because Lake Nyos is not the only lake in the world capable of producing such a disaster. There are others, including much larger bodies of water where similar conditions exist. One of them, located in Central Africa, holds a volume of gas so large that, if released, it could affect millions of people. The possibility of another event like this, on an even greater scale, is something that scientists continue to study and monitor carefully. The tragedy of that night remains one of the most disturbing natural disasters in modern history, not because of explosions or visible destruction, but because of how silently it happened. There were no warning signs that people could recognize, no signals that would have told them to run. It was a disaster that moved without sound, without shape, and without mercy. And perhaps that is what makes it so terrifying, because it reminds us that not all dangers announce themselves. Not all threats can be seen or heard. Some exist quietly, building over time, hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the exact moment when everything changes. On that night in 1986, the air itself became the enemy, and by the time anyone realized it, it was already too late.